Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden. We're going to head up towards Stockholm once again and we're going to return to a brewery who I've been very impressed with over the last little while. They've featured on the channel a good number of times, originally as Nordic Kiwi Brewers, but of course quite recently they changed their name. So for this review then we are going to go to Ekerö, which is out to the west of the main central part of Stockholm, and we're having a look at yet another beer from Northern Exposure Brewing Company. So this one is one of their core beers. It's called The Crossing Divides. It's an IPA, it's 6.5% ABV, and I'm hoping, seriously hoping, that this one is as good as the Dolphin Love that I reviewed for you a couple of videos back. The last beer that I had from these guys was the Exothermic, which was a fake IPA that came out in May of 2020, and that was a really very nice beer. But before that, as I said, I reviewed the Dolphin Love, which is another one of their core beers, and I thought that beer was just ridiculously good. And on paper, this one actually has a hop bill that I think I would prefer. So that was the main reason why I wanted to review this one quite quickly after that actually. So I'm really curious to see what this beer has in store. But this brewery, I have to say, over the last year, I think they've kind of upped their game quite a bit. The last few beers that I had from the Nordic Kiwi Brewers brand, which was the Tutti Frutti and the Chaos and Clive IPAs, you know, those were very nice, and I really felt that those beers were just a level above what I'd had from Nordic Kiwi previously actually. And since they've changed to Northern Exposure, the beers have been very good as well actually. So I'm curious to see what these guys have to deliver for us in the future. So, you know, good luck to them. I have to say I've been impressed with the beers that I've had from the Northern Exposure brand so far. So very curious to see how this one turns out today, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from the Nordic Kiwi Brewers brand and from Northern Exposure Brewing Company. You will see more added to the Northern Exposure list in the future, of course. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Nordic Kiwi Brewers and Northern Exposure Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you before, this brewery was originally founded as Nordic Kiwi Brewers, and they're based in Ekerö, just out to the west of Stockholm. And the company was founded by two New Zealanders, Craig Donovan and Karen Beattie, back in 2014. So apparently they began home brewing because Swedish beer is so expensive, and I found that statement, I think I said in the last video as well, I found that statement quite interesting because I remember being in New Zealand in 2015 and thinking the beer there was pretty expensive. So I would have thought that beer was actually more expensive in New Zealand than it was in Sweden, because in New Zealand they still have, you know, private shops that are selling it and things like that. But yeah, anyway, they say they started home brewing because the Swedish beer was so expensive, and they began buying hops from Nelson in their native New Zealand, which is of course a very well known hop producing region. So they set up the commercial brewery in a room using equipment that they bought mainly from Blocket, which is basically the Swedish equivalent of Craigslist. You can literally find anything imaginable on there. But Karen met his Swedish lady in New Zealand, and then the pair later moved to London together, and he spent some time working in the construction industry before they moved together back to Sweden. So Karen started off working full-time at the brewery initially, while Craig worked part-time for Ericsson, but the niche of this brewery was that originally they were brewing all of their beers with only New Zealand hops, and since 2017 both of them have been working full-time at the brewery. In late 2018 though, they moved to a larger facility in Ekerö, and that year they brewed around 100,000 litres of beer per year, and they were hoping to double that over the course of 2019. I haven't been able to find out if they managed to do that, but I suspect that they will have done that or been not far off that. They might well be around the 200,000 litres per year mark now. But they've also had another Kiwi brewer, another New Zealander, to join them, and they were planning to install a new brewery system, the last I heard actually. But at the end of 2019 they also changed the brewery's name from Nordic Kiwi Brewers to Northern Exposure Brewing Company. They said that apparently people in Sweden didn't get the whole kind of the fact, you know, the link between New Zealand and the Kiwis, the little Kiwi birds, and that's what we call New Zealanders, of course. Apparently people didn't get that, and they thought they were talking about kiwi fruit a lot of the time, so yeah, they changed that, and they're also now going to use hops as well that are not just from New Zealand. They will focus a little bit on New Zealand hops. I think all of their beers tend to have New Zealand hops in them, but there's also American hops and Australian things and stuff in there as well. But as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've released around 10 different beers under the Northern Exposure name, and I think there was about 40 or 50 or so previously released under the Nordic Kiwi Brewers name as well. So yeah, a really nice brewery, this one. I do hope that I can actually interview Craig and Karen at some point for one of the Meet the Brewery segments that I've just started. That would be really nice, because they've been very supportive of the channel, and I've commented on a lot of the videos and things that I've done of their beers before, actually. So yeah, it'd be cool to do a little Meet the Brewers segment with them, actually. So I'll need to see about that the next time I go up to Stockholm. Maybe I can get out to Ekerö and meet them and things, and see how we go. But yeah, that would be very cool, actually. But yeah, a really nice little Swedish brewery, this one, and quite unique in the sense that they focus on the New Zealand hops, actually. So I really like that about this one. So yeah, that's all you need to know about them for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. There you can see some beautiful mountains there, which I'm guessing are from I'm guessing it's from New Zealand, actually. It looks a little bit more New Zealandish than it does Swedish, to be honest. Yeah, Crossing Divides IPA, 6.5%. There you can see the Northern Exposure symbol there. But the hops in this one are Columbus and Simcoe from America. Columbus, I'm guessing, will be used as the bittering hop, but it's got Motueka from New Zealand, which is a lovely limey flavoured hop, usually about 8% alpha acid, not too high. And then you've also got Nelson Sauvin in there, which, as we know, is that lovely white green grapey hop from New Zealand as well. That can be very high in alpha acid, between 14 and 16% if I remember rightly, and Simcoe normally, I think, is about 11 or 12% alpha acid from what I remember, but a lovely, very soft, passion fruity flavour you usually get from Simcoe from what I remember. So I reckon that Columbus is the early addition hop, and then Motueka, Nelson Sauvin and Simcoe are being added later on in the bottle. But yeah, 6.5% IPA this one. Let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. In terms of cost, I think this beer cost me like 40 or 45 Swedish kronor, so that is, what is that, it's about €4.50, about £4, something like that, £4 British pounds. I'm not sure what that would translate to in US dollars. That would be roughly, probably about $4.50 the can. The euro and the dollar are pretty much similar these days, actually. But yeah, I'm hoping that this one turns out to be very, very nice. As I say, I was very impressed with the Dolphin Love that I had from these guys before, so I'm curious to see what this one has in store for us as well. So yeah, as you can see, this one's poured a lovely, very bright golden yellow colour, actually. I'm wondering if there is a wee bit of sediment in this one, so I'll need to check that, roll the can in a little minute. But as you can see, this one's poured a lovely, bright golden yellow colour, actually. This one might well be more of a West Coaster than the Dolphin Love. The Dolphin Love was definitely, you know, very hazy New England type IPA, so maybe this one is supposed to be a more classic take on the IPA style. But you can see this one's poured with a nice half finger of a frothy white head. It's a little bit more bumpy towards the edge, in fairness. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. If I put my fingers behind it, there is a degree of transparency to it, but it does have a level of haziness to it. It actually reminds me, in terms of its appearance, this one actually reminds me of, you know, some of the Munich Helles beers that I was drinking, and you know, the unfiltered version of Pilsner Urquell that I've had. So yeah, I really like how this one appears. Actually, I would have expected it to be a little bit more hazy and things. Does this one have oats in it? No, it just says wheat malt, actually. So yeah, this one isn't. Maybe this one isn't actually going to be a proper New England IPA. Maybe this one is going to be more of a kind of regular IPA, because it says corn. Yeah, it says basically just says barley malt and wheat malt in this one, actually. So yeah, maybe this is a more kind of classic take on the IPA rather than being New England rather, of course. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. That comes across really nicely actually. You can smell all the hops kind of coming out of this one. So straight away with this beer, you can smell a little bit of that kind of white bready sort of backbone that it has. You do get a little bit of the kind of bitiness from the wheat coming out of it, but it does at the same time smell very smooth. There's a lot of kind of biscuity aromas to it, a kind of McVitie's digestive sort of thing. There is almost a little bit of a kind of brown bready note to it as well, in fairness, and I think there is a wee bit of that kind of woody, herbal, vegetally sort of thing. It almost has just a wee bit of that farmhousey type vibe to it actually. There is just a little bit of that coming out of this one. So maybe it's using a Vermont ale yeast strain or something like that. There's something familiar about some of the malty yeasty notes that are coming out of this beer. So I wonder if it is a Vermont yeast that they've used in this. So yeah, there are a few kind of undertones of like that woody, herbally, vegetally sort of thing that you can sometimes get. The key example of that would be the likes of the Heady Topper from Alchemist in Vermont. You know, they're the ones that produce all these IPAs that are more sort of farmhousey, and there are a good number of breweries who've kind of taken that on board and followed through with that. Because yeah, it was always the Trillium beers were always more wheaty and bitey, whereas the Treehouse ones were a little bit more kind of creamy and oaty. But yeah, the more I kind of sugar this beer up, the more I get of that slightly kind of grainy, woody, farmhousey sort of thing out of the beer. But yeah, you can smell some kind of brown bready notes out of it. It's got a little bit of a white bready character as well. Some sweet biscuity qualities too. But yeah, I really like how I do like how this one goes together. Actually, it's the aroma of the malty side is quite nice, but definitely a kind of yeasty leaning IPA in my opinion actually. But if it doesn't have the oats and things in it, and I think the wheat malt might just be a small component of it. Just looking at it, if there was more wheat in it, it would be a little bit more kind of hazy than this, of course. So I do think this one is supposed to be a more classic take on the IPA style rather than what do you call it? Rather than a New England. So yeah, and that would make sense. It wouldn't really make sense for them to release two New Englands at the same time, I guess, because this was released at the same time as the Oh Dear, which was the red IPA with the beets in it that I reviewed, and it was released with the Dolphin Love, and then there was this one at the same time actually. So yeah, in terms of the hoppiness with the beer then, there's a little bit of earthiness coming out of it, which is what you'd expect. That might well be from the yeasty notes I was talking about though. Nice bit of floral aromaticity. Columbus gives you a good bit of spiciness, but the beer doesn't smell overly dank and bitter, to be honest with you. There's a nice little bit of kind of grassy, there's a nice little bit of a sort of grassy floral kind of thing going on as well. So I really like that I really like how that goes together in this beer. But yeah, the aroma for this one I think is very, very nice, I have to say. I do like how all of that goes together. The fruity side of the beer has kind of everything you'd expect. You can smell a little bit of that stronger passion fruity note from the Simcoe. You do get a nice kind of limey element as well. I think the Nelson Sauvin takes a little bit of a back seat in favour of the lime from the Motueka, and the Simcoe passion fruit is definitely there. It smells just a little bit more kind of jammy and stronger, I think, than I've had from some of the other beers I've had with Simcoe in it as well actually. So yeah, the aroma of that I think should be, the aroma of that is quite interesting. It does just have a little bit of that kind of jammy, boozy sort of thing coming out of it, which is nice. So as I say, nice little bit of passion fruit in there, a little bit of a kind of limey note from the Motueka, and you've also got some you've also got a nice little bit of you can pick out a little bit of the white green grapey notes from the Nelson Sauvin, but I think that does take a little bit of a back seat to it. But take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. I'm very curious to see what this one turns out like in terms of its flavour profile, because the aroma is quite interesting, but definitely strikes me as more of a kind of classic, or maybe more of a kind of West Coasty IPA, this one. I don't think it's quite a New England, if you like. But yeah, this one is the Crossing Divides, an IPA at 6.5% ABV from Northern Exposure Brewing Company in Ekerö near Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Oh yeah. I like how that goes together actually. It is It is definitely more. It's not New England and hazy, this one. This is more a kind of regular IPA, if you like. It's not even really kind of West Coasty, to be honest with you. It's not got the sweet caramelly backbone that you'd expect of a West Coast IPA. I've had IPAs like this before from, for example, Stuart Brewing in Edinburgh, back home in Scotland, and he loves to use the New Zealand hops in his beers. Is his name Gavin? Is it Gavin Stewart? I forget exactly what his first name is, but Stuart Brewing in Edinburgh. This reminds me of a couple of the beers that I've had from them, actually. That really does. Yeah, this one, it is more. It really reminds me of it's just a more old school IPA. This one, and yeah, there's no. Yeah, there's no sediment and stuff in the can with this. I thought I did wonder with it when I poured it. Maybe maybe it'd been sitting for a wee while, and things stuff had kind of sediment, because I did see the wheat that was in there. So I think the wheat is obviously a very small component of the malt base in this one, rather than being at the 4 as you would get with a New England IPA. So this one is definitely meant to be more of a a more classic take on the IPA style, if you like. But as I say, it kind of sits in the middle. It almost pushes a wee bit more towards the West Coasty side of things, but it's still got some of the kind of smoothness that you'd expect from. It's still got some of the smoothness that you'd expect of a New England, if you like. But I like this one. I do like how this one goes together, so it gets a thumbs up from me. But yeah, no, I like how that. I do like how that that kind of goes together. This one, it's a nice solid IPA. This one. The main question though would be: is it as good as the Dolphin Love? I think not quite, but maybe in fairness, it's not. It's not fair to make that comparison, because they are very different in how they kind of come across. So it's a different type of IPA. I think you need to remember that when I say. But I think in terms of boldness and generally, if I was to recommend a beer that I've had from this brewery, it would be Dolphin Love, probably. Dolphin Love is the one that's been the best I've tried so far. But there's nothing wrong with this beer. Don't get me wrong on that. This one is pretty solid. But yeah, definitely more of a kind of. It's almost a bit more like a kind of slightly conservative IPA, to be honest with you, rather than anything else. But yeah, let's try and describe the flavour of this one then and see how we get on. So straight away, across the middle of the palate, you've got a nice sort of white bready, wheaty kind of quality to this one. That blankets the middle of your tongue. If you go towards the back third of your tongue, you will feel a little bit of bitiness coming out of it. You do get some of the more bitey elements from the wheat in this, which is very, very nice. But yeah, the malt base is pretty much. It reminds me of some of these IPAs that you used to get that were simply kind of pale malt, and they used to just blast them with hops. The malt base on this one is very kind of sort of straight up. I mean, the further you go into the aftertaste with this as well, you will get a few kind of woody, herbally, vegetally kind of notes. Mainly woody, actually. I do find that this beer has a little bit of a woody and I guess very slightly herbal undertone to it. But yeah, you do notice some of the woody notes evolving out of this one the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. So yeah. Yeah, this one is, you do get a bit more of that. I think there is maybe a Vermont ale yeast strain being used in here. There's just something very familiar about it, actually. It could also be something like a London fog or things, but I don't know. I don't remember the London fogs having quite this, the woody farmhousey type thing that's going on in here. But yeah, I think it's interesting because you see it come out a bit more if you use less wheat. I think the wheat and the oats tend to cover that up a lot in the. They tend to cover that up a lot in most of the New England IPAs, and I think definitely in the case of the Dolphin Love, the wheat and the oats are doing that, and they are more prominent in the recipe, right enough. But yeah, as the middle third of your tongue, as I say, it's got a kind of light wheaty, white bready sort of thing. In the middle of your palate, there is a very slight sort of biscuity sweetness to the beer, but mainly it's sort of flat and white bready, to be honest with you. So yeah, pretty much a very straight up malt base in my mind. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. I think that'll be coming from the Columbus, but as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you can definitely feel it gets a little bit more sort of herbal. There's a wee bit of herbal quality there, but then as you reach the front corners of the palate, it's definitely got some of that nice typical sort of spicy floral aromaticity out of it. It's not a very high IBU beer, this one, which is kind of common for what we can call modern IPAs these days, 2020 level IPAs, but then round the very front curve of the palate you get a little bit of a lighter sort of grassy thing coming out of this beer, and in the front third of your tongue, that's where you get the nice oily bubble, where the juicy fruity esters are pushing their way out of the beer. So yeah, this one, I really do find this one quite limey, to be honest with you. Getting a hell of a lot of lime out of this. But yeah, if you go towards the back of that fruity part of the palate, there's some nice kind of darker passion fruity notes there. As you move further forward from that, you start to get a little bit, it really does get a little bit more kind of limey. I do think the Nelson Sauvin, I don't get so much of that. Like on the very front part of the palate, you do get just a little bit of that almost gooseberry or kind of white green grapey thing out of the Nelson Sauvin, but mainly this, I really find this IPA to be very limey rather than anything else. So I think maybe the Motueka seems to be taking the fore on this one, and it's surprising that when you think about it, because Motueka, as I say, I think it's only around 8% alpha acid, whereas Simcoe is like usually it's usually like 11 or 12, and then Nelson Sauvin's an even bigger beast than that. It's about 14 to 16% alpha acid from what I remember. So it's just interesting that Motueka is taking the force so much. I really find this to be a very, very limey IPA, this one, to be honest with you. But I like that. It's nice to have things that are a wee bit different. Of course, the other hops that you can use for lime, Cashmere has a hell of a lot of lime in it, but you've got melons and stuff in there as well. You've also got Equinaut, is a very well-known sort of limey hop, to be honest, too. Is it there's one of the Slovenian hops too, I think, is it the Styrian, it might be the Styrian Fox, has a lot of lemony character to it as well, so that's another quite interesting one. But yeah, it's a very limey leaning IPA, this one, for me. But yeah, it is, I think generally in terms of its flavour profile, this one, it's one of these kind of IPAs that sort of straddles the middle between a New England and a West Coast. It's not quite got the caramelly sweetness and the bitterness that you would want of a West Coast, but then again it's not got the sort of the big oaty creaminess that you would expect of the New Englands either. So it's kind of one of these ones that's just sort of sitting in the middle, actually. It reminds me of a few of the beers, as I say, that I've had from Stewart Brewing in Edinburgh, and it actually reminds me of a few that I've had from it reminds me of actually a few of the beers I've had from Fjäder Helmarnas Brewery, just on the islands near Stockholm, and also a few of the ones that I've had in Malmö Tap Room as well, actually. It reminds me of a few of the Malmö Brewing Company beers. So it's solid, it's actually a solid enough one, this. It just doesn't commit to either the New England or the West Coast, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing something a little bit different. It reminds me of some of these more old school IPAs where it was just a pale malt base, and the focus was always on the hops, actually. So it's an interesting one, this. It's quite quirky in that sort of sense. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this beer as being quite mid-bodied. Yeah, quite a mid-bodied beer, this one. Carbonation is very smooth. It's got a little bit of an oiliness to it, in fairness, so I like how that goes together. In terms of the hoppy bitterness, I think you would be lucky to get more than I think you'd be lucky to have more than 30 IBUs in this one. I think this one's, you know, your standard 25-30 that you would normally expect of a New England IPA. There's not a lot of bitterness to this one. The malt base, as I say, pretty much smooth. There's not really much in the way of a sweetness to it, but I do like how that side of the beer kind of comes across, actually. You've got a lovely oily fruity character to it. As I say, to me it really strikes me as being limey, but in fairness, the further you go into the aftertaste, you get a little bit of the kind of gooseberry, white green grapey sort of thing coming out of it as well. And I like there's a wee bit of the darker passion fruit in there as well. But overall, it's a very, very nice tasting beer, this one. I like the flavour profile that it has. Is it as good as the Dolphin Love? I'm not quite sure, but it is a solid IPA, this one. So yeah, if you like a more citrusy leaning, Yeah, more citrusy leaning IPA, then this is one that I think will suit you quite well actually. So another solid one from Northern Exposure Brewing Company. I think they've done a good job of this, and you know, give it a go for yourself and see what you think. But yeah, if you want a more kind of bold beer, I would definitely say go with the Dolphin Love, but I think again they've done a very nice job of this one. I'd love to see these guys do like a proper West Coast one, you know, use the New Zealand hops, you know, the big sweet kind of caramelly malt base, and you know, 70, 80 IBUs. I'd love to see what these guys would do with something like that. So maybe we'll see that in the next few months. I know that it takes a long time for them. It takes you about 4 months actually to get a beer into Systembolaget in Sweden, because you've got to submit the paperwork and things like that. So hopefully within the next few months we can see like a proper old school West Coast style New Zealand IPA from Northern Exposure Brewing Company. I think that would be a very interesting step for these guys to take. But yeah, a solid beer this one. And I'm glad that I was able to review this for you on the channel, so I hope that you guys enjoyed my take on this one as well. So yeah, this one was the Crossing Divides, an IPA at 6.5% ABV, quite citrusy leaning and quite smooth in its malt base, from Northern Exposure Brewing Company in Ekerö, just out to the kind of southwest-ish of Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's leave it at that for this one. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Northern Exposure Brewing Company as well. We will return to these guys fairly soon. I do have one more beer to review from them this month that you can look forward to, which will be interesting, a different style. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Check out my social media, check out Northern Exposure Brewing Company, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.